Good afternoon, dear participants, dear students. Before starting our online lesson, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Laura Майрыкова Лаура Магзумовна, the language B teacher and the teacher of TOK, Theory of Knowledge in Diploma program. So, unit topic that I'm going to introduce today is going to be about our world. Lesson 1 is the first lesson. Personal identification is the theme of the lesson, and this is subtopic of the unit topic, which is our world. In this lesson today, my students will know about key terms such as personal feelings and opinions, which are close to emotions and language, which are the TOK key terms. So this lesson is for pre-diploma program students, language B, grade 10. In this lesson, students will become familiar with TOK terms and they will develop IB learner profile. And one of the requirements of the IB diploma program is the implementation of the theory of knowledge aspects in the language B class. And language here as the way of knowing is making a great link between TOK and language B class. Please remember the key terms, personal feelings and opinions. What is the aim of today's lesson? The teaching aim is to implement the theory of knowledge aspects in English B class and develop the IB learner profile. As you know, all the 10 IB learner profiles are connected with the topic personal identification. And personal identification brings the personal feelings and opinions which are close to emotions and language. What are the learning objectives? So, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to recognize the key TOK terms and develop thinking skills through the IB learner profile. So, when they reflect on themselves, they will face with each IB learner profile, through which they will develop their thinking skills such as reflective skills, and also students will be familiar with some TOK terms, especially ways of knowing such as language and emotions, and partially with reason. Before teaching this class, I divided the unit into 3 parts: before teaching, reflection before teaching, and reflection during teaching time, and reflection after teaching, post-reflection. So let's start with pre-reflection questions. So there are 3 questions. How to connect TOK with English B? To what extent do the resources I picked fit with the unit? In this case, resources, I mean MYP Language B Guide and the textbook on Theory of Knowledge by Sue Bastian, and how to connect the topic, statement of inquiry, and unit questions. These 3 questions I had in my mind before teaching this lesson, because to answer these questions was so important to construct this lesson plan. Let me share with you the feelings I had before teaching. So how did I feel before teaching? I felt confident in teaching this unit because I came across the same topic in the TOK, in Theory of Knowledge, and all I needed was to go back to teaching language acquisition. Language acquisition is language B, which is English B. These questions are for pre-reflection, and we will see how the lesson will go. Let's start our lesson with a little bit brainstorming. You know the theme of the lesson, which is personal identification, and personal identification requires the question, what is your name? Yes, the date of your birth, and so on and so forth. So let's start with a little bit brainstorming to come up to the unit topic and to the lesson topic. So what is your name and how do you know that? The question, how do you know that, will link language B with theory of knowledge. So if I say, let me model, if I answer this question, my name is Laura, and how do I know that? I know that because it's written in my passport, or it's written in my ID card, so which is straightly connected with personal identification. And the second, this answer leads to the second question, what documents do you usually use to identify yourself? Of course, students' answers might be ID or passport. Okay, and two more questions to you, dear participants, to answer. What information does your ID give about you? When are you usually asked to show your ID in your country? Let me repeat these two questions. What information does your ID give about you? And when are you usually asked to show your ID? You are given 2 minutes to answer these questions, and then after answering these questions, students, the teacher's role here is to support students to identify the lesson, the theme of the lesson. So what topic do these questions remind you of? The topic is personal identification. You are absolutely right. Now let's move on. Once we introduce the theme of the lesson, which is personal identification, the big question comes here. What information does personal identification include? Let's reflect on this question. What information does personal identification include? So, once we get the answer to this question, we can easily see the connection of this question, the answer of the students, with the key concept, related concept, and global context of the unit plan. So key concept is, in this case, is communication. Related concept is argument and point of view. And global context is identities and relationships, plus the second global context is globalization and sustainability. So, let's have a look at each of them. If you see communication is a key concept, let's try to connect communication with the question, what information does personal identification include? How do people communicate? Why is communication key concept in this unit? So, doing this activity, you may ask students to feedback on the definition to communication. So, communication is the exchange or transfer of signals, facts, ideas, and symbols. Also, it requires a sender, a message, and an intended receiver. Communication involves the activity of conveying information or meaning. And effective communication requires a common language which may be written, spoken, or nonverbal. Why language? Language is the key term here, which is also key way of knowing and theory of knowledge. Language-based students think that language is the area of knowledge in English subject. Plus, our teacher's job is to help students to become familiar with the way of knowing, such as language. Argument. Argument comes out of knowledge claim, and it needs to be developed. If students express their point of view, they need to support their point of view with an argument, and the argument should be developed. Before doing student-led activity, teachers should provide teaching process. So as we call it, teacher-led activity. So let me introduce the key terms, personal feelings and opinions. I can write them down on the board and ask a question, what is personal feeling and what is opinion? Could you please think about it? What is personal feeling and what is opinion? The second question is, what is the difference between personal feeling and opinions? And third question is, are there any commonalities between two words? You are given 2 minutes to think. I'm repeating the question again. Personal feelings and opinions, what are they? Give a definition. What's the difference between personal feelings and opinions? Are there any commonalities between these two words? So when students give the definition to personal feelings and opinions, usually they can give the right definition, they can get the definition from dictionaries, but that's not enough. We need to deepen their knowledge, connecting these definitions to TOK. So personal feelings are connected with emotions, which is the second way of knowing in theory of knowledge, and we can give examples to students how emotion works and how feelings are connected with emotions. Same with opinions. In order to express our opinions, people need language as a tool. So language helps to express opinions. But how are we going to express opinions? The ways to express opinions, the thinking process, which is also links to reason, which is the third way of knowing in theory of knowledge. So a little bit about emotion. Emotion as a way of knowing. The late American movie critic Roger Ebert used this simple credo in judging a film's value. Your intellect may be confused, but emotions never lie you. This is from the textbook, Theory of Knowledge. Now the question is, can you think of any clearer statement of emotion as a way of knowing? Let me repeat the question. Can you think of any clearer statement of emotion as a way of knowing? So, our emotions often present convincing feelings only to ourselves. For an emotion or opinion to go public, language and reason come into play. So, reason in this case is the third way of knowing in TOK. Can you see the link between language B and TOK? Thank you. After teaching process, we should start with student-led activity, with help of which students develop their thinking skills. And here it depends on you how you will organize the work, students' work, so either pair work or group work, but the main point of this activity is, as this is the first lesson, students should be able to create 3 types of questions: factual, conceptual, and debatable. And they should be able to connect statement of inquiry with the unit topic, the theme of the lesson, the global context. They all should be connected, and they should focus on these 3 things, and based on those 3 they need to create, one is factual, second is conceptual, and debatable question. Let me model to you. For example, as the topic is about personal identity, my factual question might be, what does the personal identity tell us about? Conceptual question might be, how can the world affect the personal identity, which is straightly connected with the unit topic? Third one, are emotions and language important in personal feelings and opinions? This is a debatable question. Are they important or not? So, if you see the keywords here are emotions and language, feelings, personal feelings, and opinions. Students know statement of inquiry when they are introduced their unit topic. So statement of inquiry in this case is, language plays an important role to reflect the dynamic social environments in which people make themselves understood. Let's define the keywords here. language, as you see, language. Again, in the statement of inquiry, we see the way of knowing, language, through which people make themselves understood. Next one is IB learner profile, as one of our objectives is to develop IB learner profile, to develop students' thinking skills through IB learner profile. But how it's going to be? So students reflect on their IB learner profile. They select one they are strong at or good at, and one they need to improve. And the question to close this activity is, how are you going to improve it? So students, we may organize this activity in this way. For example, this activity students can work individually, then in pairs, then in the group of 4 or 5 students. So that way we can cover all the 10 IB learner profile. Then students should select 2 or 3, if you want, IB learner profile that they are good at, and 2 that they need to improve if one is not enough. And also they need to think, how do they know that they are good at, let's say, being communicators? Or how do they know that they need to improve being risk takers? And the question, how are you going to improve it, requires the plan. So what should I do to improve, or to improve being, let's say, balanced? Or how am I going to improve being reflective? What should I do? What should I do to learn to be reflective? As you see, this IB learner profile is connected with the unit topic, the theme, key concept, related concept, global context, and the subject, the core subject in diploma program, which is TOK, Theory of Knowledge. Let me ask you this question. Let's have a look at each IB learner profile. Inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk takers, balanced, and reflective. Could you please think and answer the question, which one of them are you good at? And which one do you need to improve? How do you know that you are good at whatever? Or how do you know that you need to improve the specific IB learner profile? How are you going to improve it? Let's think about the connection between the IB learner profile and unit topic. What's the connection between IB learner profile and the theme? IB learner profile and key concept, related concept, global context, and TOK. As one of the first objective is to implement TOK and TOK aspects. So students may be asked to think, to reflect on the IB learner profiles in terms of TOK. Then each student or each group of students or each pair feeds back to a teacher. Groups may share ideas, or each pair may share ideas. Students reflect on the activity by talking about IB learner profile, the connection with personal identification, which is the theme of the lesson, and how they are interrelated with emotion and language, which are the main aspects of TOK. While teaching this class, I had an opportunity to reflect during the teaching process, reflect on my own practice. Let me share with you. It's challenging to encompass the TOK in English B class, because not all the teachers are familiar with TOK, but however, TOK is the main requirement in IB to implement it in other subjects. Students should take time when the activity is student-led. So if we plan to give them 10 minutes, sometimes it doesn't work and we need to give them more than 10 minutes. Next time I should teach the concept of bias and assumption as they are related to this unit topic. The keywords here, bias and assumption, why I am talking about, why I reflected on these two things, because students don't understand the meaning of bias, as we don't have the concept of bias in our native language. So that's why students think bias is assumption, assumption is bias, which is wrong. I also should focus on the way students build questions. So students build three types of questions, and they made some grammar mistakes, which also should be taught by me, the ways how to build questions, because TOK is all about questioning. When assessment comes, assessment includes self-reflection in this lesson and feedback. So students working in pairs or in groups, they reflect on their own success, they reflect on their own work, and also they give feedback, and feedback to each other, and feedback to me. Let me share with the post-reflection that I made after teaching this class. This lesson was interesting and challenging in terms of implementation of TOK in English B class, and proved to be quite successful. As for the content and teaching, this is my first time using TOK aspects in English B class, and it was quite successful. The topic was also interesting and very useful for students, but I wish we had more time to discuss the link between the global context and topic. I also had some ideas about linking the Unit 1 with the Unit 2 and steps on how to teach the Unit 2 further. So these points were reflected by me after teaching this class. Let's go back to the aim of the lesson, which was to implement the TOK in English B class and develop the IB learner profile. To check whether I achieved my aim or not, I would like to ask a question. Did or was I able to implement the TOK in English B class? Did students develop the IB learner profile? Did students recognize the key to TOK terms? Did they develop thinking skills through the IB learner profile? The answer is yes. How did they do that? So they worked on questions, building questions, factual, conceptual, and debatable questions, through which they connected IB learner profile, TOK, unit topic, the theme of the topic, the theme of the lesson, global context, and related concept. Also, as the unit topic is our world, the subtopic was the personal identification. So my question is, should we see the connection between our world and personal identification? Is there any connection between them? So here I would add that students should always go back to the unit topic. No criteria is used for assessment here, as this is the first lesson. Just two things, they are self-reflection, feedback, are used to assess students, to give them feedback. The resources I used for this lesson are MYP Language Acquisition Guide for 2014-2015, MYP Language B Unit Planner for 2015-2016 academic year, and the textbook about Theory of Knowledge by Sue Bastian, 2014. These resources were used by me to create this lesson. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer to question and to ask questions if you have, and 2 minutes to reflect, to feedback on this lesson. Do you have any questions? If you don't have any questions, I would say thank you for your attention. And these are my contacts: Майрыкова Лаура, the teacher of English B and TOK, my email and Skype. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you. Goodbye.